Welcome to the Lights Out Podcast. This is Chris Lights Out Lytle, and this is our journey to document the history of mixed martial arts. I have brought with me my friend, the MMA detective Mike Davis, and together we will preserve the history and hear some great stories from the world in the era of the no-holds-barred. Thank you and enjoy.
Welcome back to the Lights Out MMA History Podcast. I am Joey Venti. With me is Mike Davis. He's the MMA detective. I'm the broken down fireman, and we're breaking down the career of UFC and IFL veteran Rory Markham. Rory, thank you for being with us today.
Got to slip in actor there now. Got to get that. Got to get that role.
And superstar actor. It's true. It's true.
Still got it. I mean, it's got to get it out there. It's going good. It's going really. This you asked me last week, I would have told you I had a hard time getting out of bed. But you talked to me this week, and it's just you have to involve yourself with life and people that you get the vibe from that can understand you. So I'm looking at Mike Davis right now. We've known each other forever.
Southsider.
It's dude, when you're a Southsider, you're a Southsider. And when you're as handsome as fucking Joey over there, like, you know, it's just like, dude, I mean, you know, I hope they like the Philip Seymour Hoffman rest in peace look. But anyway, I can tell you this much. There's connections that I've made this week that are astronomical in what I've seen since I've been a child. I've seen my whole life since I've been a kid, and I've always followed it unequivocally because the belief was inherent.
Okay. Well, I want to start from the beginning with you, and I'm not sure how far back you want to go, but I will reference in A Fighter's Heart by Sam Sheridan.
Just got a phone.
He referenced yourself in the book, stating that at one point in life, you would literally leave your house on the weekends with the sole purpose of getting in fights. So why don't we kind of start from the beginning of what got you into mixed martial arts?
Well, I've been a martial artist since I was 6. And then I found Kyokushinkai Karate when I was about 11. And I had a sensei there who was very strict, very, very attuned to that I was the most talented person he'd come across. He pushed me to limits, convinced me I was impervious to pain, things of the nature they do in the Kanku in Japan. Never lost a Kyokushin fight, and after my first tournament, when my sensei was there, I stopped telling him I was taking fights because I was going to Marist High School eventually and getting straight A's. And he said, "You're going to be a doctor, you're going to be this, you're going to be that, you know, stop this fighting, it's going to grow." And very, very big part of my life, Sensei Gregory T. Johnson, rest in peace, sir. Eric Johnson, thank you for leading me to Pat Miletich's. But what drove me the hardest was I was not like, I've never stolen a thing from a person. I have never, you know, done anything criminally insane. But I would get in trouble because I accrued a multitude of, like, an amalgamation of the weirdest friends you could pick up. But, you know, because we started in Catholic school where they're all racist. I'm sorry. They're picky and choosy. A kid from Chicago who got his eye shot out and had a stutter, dressed differently than all of us, was walking home the same way as I was. And I knew he needed help to make it in, this town. So I said, "Hey, buddy, you're walking one block past my house. Why don't you just come this way and we'll walk home together?" Kind of. So the name was Chewy and Richard Samantha. And I had all the little guys, the people, the no wants, that nobody wanted, and man, that's what will get me to this point, is that I do a lot of fighting because people come after people thinking they were going to be picking on so
you pick up the handicap and then fight their fights for them at a very young age.
Yes. Or Mexican, or, I can call my buddy, no, that's just an Arabic Mo, my buddy, just these things would come to them. We'd hang out at my park, and it was my park since I was 13. I'd claim this from all the guys, I judged who played hoops because we had a full court, you know what I mean? But my best friend ever lived 6 doors down from me. His name's Ed Bilskis. And it's brought up in Sam's book. Sam had a hard time wanting to write it. You know, he's like, I don't want to do this to you or anything. He said, you have to, because his story must be told, because it coincides with mine. Like maybe Joey knows, you know, like, but the thing is because we're messing around. We're trying to peddle smokes. They were peddling smokes off a guy, what was called the White Hen at the time. It's now 7-Eleven, across the street from Christ Hospital. You know, Ed was acting a little weird that night. We didn't drink much. It was like 6 beers, man, nothing big. And, you know, he looks at the clock. There's a 3 on the number. He says, Rory, follow the number 3. He didn't say, you know, remember. He just said, follow it when you see it. Don't know why. Okay. I do know why now, but it's supposed to be him. He's, you know, kind of telling me whatever, but he ends up ditching us at the White Hen, the 7-Eleven, going across the street, and there's a 4-story parking garage, driving to the top. And we're still dicking around talking to the guy that we know at the 7-Eleven, and a cop comes in asking for Rory Markham, like real hard like that. And I was like, you know, when the police knock on the door, you know, it's fucking cops. And you're like, I'm not answering that one. Well, I dummied up and I looked at the Fritos and I was like, oh, that guy is. But I heard over the mic, his best friend wants him here. Make sure you find him. I said, I'm Rory Markham. And I put down things I had in my hands. And he's like, get in the back of the car. And I was like, you're asking for me, guy. I'm a little talkative, but so I end up getting in the back and we drive a block because it's across the street. And on the corner of the parking garage Ed was standing, you know, he's almost like glistening in white. And I said to the cop, oh, this asshole, I'll have him down in 10 minutes. I was like, he's my best friend, you know, the kind of guy you could drive 3 hours, or we used to drive all over to these Kyokushin tournaments. And he used to go sometimes, he used to go, I know what you're thinking. And I was like, what? He goes, you're thinking about, you know, he goes, you're thinking about this technique, and you always get it right. Like, or even if you're driving around town, he'd say, I know you're thinking about fighting still, huh? He knew what I was, right? And
so let's frame this. So he is on the parking garage and you're being called there to talk to him?
Yes, by the Oakland police and their negotiator. So the negotiator was on. Yeah, I could have sued them for plenty.
Keep going.
You know,
yeah.
And it wasn't the kind of person my family was, and nor was I. But I walked up these steps. Right, it's 95 degrees out, Chicago, the bitching fucking humidity, and I'm nodding at the guy as I'm going up. Like, don't worry, no, you know, because I got to get us home too after this. Make sure there's not going to be any bullshit. You know, as I get to the 3rd floor, the number 3, whatever, I'll tell you, hell's not hot. Hell is fucking frighteningly cold because it dropped, because it's an outdoor parking garage. So it dropped. I dropped to a temperature as if an Antarctic ice wall hit you. And took a moment. I looked at the 3 and I was like, someone's going to die tonight. I knew who it was. And I was like, so as I stepped to the 4th floor and I came out, there was this lady. She, all right, Ed, your friend's here. And, you know, and so I start walking right at him and he goes, stop. And puts his hand out. And he never used to tell me what to do or anything. And he goes, don't. And he started inching his feet off the edge of like as if a wind could like blow him off. So no word out of my mouth wanted to be wrong. So I just said, I love you. And he goes, so what are you doing? And his toes, I don't know how gravity kept him on. But he said, hey, he had a car, you know, that he was doing outlandish things beforehand. Like he bought an Eddie Bauer with his dad's money and stuff. And he took and we don't have licenses practically at this time. And he throws me the keys to somebody else's car, his dad's car. He's like, "You keep the Eddie Bauer, Roar. I love you." And he did like a reverse cannonball. And I ran to the edge. And the first thing I said was, "I'm not going to jump." But the guy who grabbed my belt said, I could still see how the belt was permanently like imprinted. And I sat on that man's lap for 6 hours and cried my eyes out. Until I identified the body. That's how close we were. This man became he became a pastor, a preacher, because one time, when I was locked up afterwards, long time afterwards, he said, I've driven down your block 100 times, never had the courage to knock on your door, because I think you wouldn't answer, just to tell you that I'm so proud of you, what you turned into from going through something like that.
Yeah.
And I made a vow that day that I would see it through, no matter how scary. Because when I went down to Miletich's, it was the place on paper, baddest place in the world.
Okay, so that encapsulates your senior year in essence. Like, and it's something that's obviously very traumatic, something in your background. You haven't really talked about it much. So other than people from the South Side, many people probably don't know that story.
Yeah, so to answer your question very way back, I would look in the mirror every day and go, "Today is the last day you're going to live." And I would live like I was going to die, on my senior year of high school. I still got straight A's, but.
Okay. Not an easy thing to deal with. So let's talk about your transition. Obviously, this made an impact in your life. How soon, like what year do you end up traveling to Miletich to go
19.
train up there?
19. So I got kicked out of Eastern. I hold the record in 9 days. I fought four guys. I fought 4 different guys. Somebody was picking on, again, one of my friends, Dan Olejnik. He's got an eye that, like, he's got a loose eye. And he was getting ripped on. He goes, "Hang on, I got something for you." And he goes, "Roar, I need your help. I'm getting picked on." And I said, "Don't worry about it." And I was sitting next to the prettiest girl at the time. I really liked this girl. And she's like, "Don't stay here." And I was like, "No, I got to do this." And I went out, and these 2 guys were already down the balcony, like in the parking lot, ready to fight what they thought was Dan. And he goes, "There you go, dumbasses. Have at it." And one shot. I had this. I've always been given this gift from God. I've had knockout power. I've seen knockouts since I was 13, 12. I've seen them, real ones, where I take people's time, and I have no remorse over that. And I will tell you that these 2 kids, I was always fighting 2-on-1, because, like I said, I had a crew that wasn't a crew, So that same night, I didn't, so that same night, we get hammered, and I'm, those little trucks for kids, they have they're like a Flintstone car, like the red, and then they have the yellow roof. So I'm cruising down 4th Street, which has an angle, and I'm on top of that, and all, our friends would throw in stuff, just being idiots, but it's the houses where there's fraternities or something. Well, I get down to the bottom of the hill, and up walk, probably he had to be a 6'6" guy, and a guy that was, I had his hospital report. He was 6'1", big men, right? And they started talking real foul, and I was like, "All right, let's get it going." And 'cause I was always down, I was always trying. I didn't want to live, so I was always chomping at the bit, but I did want to live. But so Jim Bosby at the time was a very short guy, and they called him an ostrich jockey. And he goes, "Guys, I warned you." And he looks at me, he goes, "Have fun." And the first kid I cracked, I always go after the biggest guy, boom, on the jaw. He went down, boom, out. Second guy, boom, out. 2 like this, boom, boom. Just like that. I'm not, and no more follow-up to look at them. I knew they were out. I was doing the fucking walk away on the streets of the fucking, for like
Charleston, Illinois. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did it in Marco Island one time. And I understood this, because this will come up. Marco Island, I had gotten set up to be jumped, and I hit this one kid really hard. This has to correlate. Watch, wait for me, Mike. Hit this kid so hard that he does it sounded like a piece of plywood hitting sand when he boomed on the concrete, on the sand, and he was fine. His two friends that were to jump me looked at me and turned around and ran like it was a cartoon. It was funny. The guy I was protecting he had a hockey damage into his brain, so he had an eye surgery that went wrong, and he could go blind at any moment. So I was kicking this kid's ass so everyone was safe. And Chuck looked at me and he goes, "Roar, you just killed him. You might know Robert Ingalls, Charles Ingalls, famous lawyer. That was his son." So we ended up running, and we got pretty far away, and I heard this kid go, "Ah!" Sometimes kids, men, whatever, will scream when they wake up on not knowing where they are. So a block down on 4th Street, after I KO'd these two guys, they woke up and they were both screaming. Now, I was next to one kid that went to Marist a year ahead of me who was supposed to be Johnny Badass, and he goes, after I hit the two kids right away, he goes, "That's the 4th person I've seen you knock out since been down here for a day." And I said, "That's just, yeah, it's a day in the life." And he looks at me again. He goes, "What's going on?" I said, "It's going to be twice as hard this time." I said, "If they come at us, it's going to be twice as hard." And they started running towards us, and I started running towards them. And the first guy, again, I got out. He was 6'6", and he ended up hitting his curb, hitting his head on the curb, and got 3 staples. But the other guy I couldn't put away. So I just kept hitting him like boiler room, where Scott Kahn's said he put the guy in a mayonnaise jar, and he got a subdural hematoma. And I still don't apologize for this one bit. They came to jump people. They saw a small crew, and the guy was coming to them, and he ended up getting airlifted or whatever. I ended up getting escorted out of Eastern Illinois by the cops, and I literally was like, it's like, "Oh shit, man, this sucks." Still kind of unaware of what had just happened, while everyone else goes on with their life. So when I get back home, what was your original question? Because this is all
Miletich. No. This is what we've established. All right. On the south side of Chicago, in terms of street fighting, it's something that happens more often here than probably most other areas on the planet. And your name is synonymous with that. But then you get over to Miletich. And Miletich is a place where you come with that type of heat or reputation, and they tend to iron you out. So let's talk about your first few days at the MFS.
Okay. So what I had done when I'd gotten back from Eastern was I stopped lifting weights, and I started running. And I developed this Prefontaine-esque sense of loving running. And I started taking some amateur boxing fights. And I want our listeners to know that Mike Davis he fought Angel Manfredi, and he did sprints.
Get my ass beat.
Hang on. His preparation, though, was so sound and so beautiful. He would do sprints around an entire block, which I'd never heard of. That was a brilliant way to train. And he told me he was so well trained for that fight, and the fact that he had still lost, he had the foresight to say that, I'm good with this. You know what I mean? Angel went on to win multitudes of titles and all those things, but you didn't get knocked out. You didn't do anything. Your chin was fucking ready because all that running you did. You told me your preparation. You did blocks for 2 blocks. You'd run around the block, and that would be a sprint. I mean, it was incredible. You did what, 7 of them, 8, or what was your record?
I just did it. I ran for the round. And then you do on the minute in between. You go 30-second jog, 30-second walk, breathe all the way down to the bottom of your belly. Yeah, dude, it's cardio is everything. Boxing is cardio.
So yeah, I learned how to sprint before I headed to Miletich, and I was boxing. So I won my boxing fight. Eric Johnson, my sensei's son, looked at me and goes, Now you go down to Miletich tomorrow or Monday. He goes, don't get all wasted tonight. Pack Sunday. Monday, you are on your way to Miletich's. So I called Pat, and he was shaving, and he took my call, and he's like, yeah, come on down, bud. Don't even worry about it. It's like, yeah. So I remember the drive down. No, I had eggs at a place near our house with my mom, and she said, Rory, I know this is it for you. This has always been it for you. So I will see you, or I'll hear from you as soon as, you get back, but I know you're going to do great. I know they're going to see the greatness in you. Getting there, pulling up, we worked out of Gold's Gym then. Here comes this shark-bitten look, hunched over guy walking. So he's about 5'10", 5'9", but he walks about 5'7" because he's hunched. He's got that wrestler walk. And he shakes my hand and he talks nasally because he had a broken nose so much. And he goes, how you doing? And another kid there was visiting, Jeremy. How you doing? He goes, how you boys all set up for Best Western? Like, yes, sir. All right, we'll get over, get some rest. And we started at 6. The amateur started at 6. So we go through the amateur practice. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, man. And now, Mike, I owned the UFC Dark Ages on VHS. I had a guy in Japan that used to send me 28, 29,
30. Oh, wow.
So, yeah. I could get you I had Rumor Sato's flying armbar. So this is how bad I wanted it. It fucking just, it was everything. It still is in a way. It is who I am. But meeting Miletich, I was like, I just met what people would think to themselves of Elvis Presley or something. And I was like, whoo, I took that well. Well, end of practice comes, and Robbie Lawler, I moved down there because Robbie Lawler fought Aaron Riley at UFC 33. And I said, if Pat can do that to him, Rob and I are 2 days apart, then I can, what one man can do, another can do. The edge. I always live by that. So I said, I could be something. And Robbie walks through. I'm like, holy shit. Gen Z walks through. Matt, Tim, Tony. I was like, holy shit. And Pat goes, hey, see that group of guys? We're doing shark bait, which, by the way, if you don't know it and you're in MMA, go home. Get out of MMA. It's one of the toughest drills. Guy in the center punches and sprawls while there's 3 guys trying to take him down. So we were doing shark bait that night, which I don't know what that is or anything, but he goes, hey, group over there.
That means you're the chum. Yeah.
Exactly. So Jens, Robbie, and Matt was my group. And I said, so I'll guard the mirrors or something? He goes, no, you're in that group. And I said, yeah, go. And then I heard the Jeremy kid go, sir, where do I go? He goes, you're an amateur. Sit down. And I heard that. And I knew something that clicked. It's like, he's already seen it. Something. And boy, did I get my fucking dick kicked in. I mean, I didn't know what a takedown was, bro. I didn't know what hips were. I just didn't know. I didn't know there was so much I couldn't know about fighting, about the art of combat, the ultimate art of what it is to not just know one martial way. It's to have a wrestler touch you 4 inches beneath your belly button. It makes you bend over, just to snap your head down into a front headlock. Just all these little things, while I knew how to box, it didn't matter to them. They were outboxing the shit out of me and then taking me down. So yeah, I was just charred. At the end of that, I was looking at Miletich. I was like, he's like, cool. All right, you're working with the pros from now on. I'll see you at 10 o'clock. I was like, after that? He's like, yeah, that's a hard drill. I was like, oh my God, because they had to pull me out of the center at one point because I couldn't get anybody down. I mean, it was it was a good memory. But so I show up at 10. I ended up driving Jeremy there. I could tell he's all fucking, somebody shitting his Cheerios. I'm like, listen, kid, this is something.
Are you talking about Jeremy Horn?
Sorry, Jeremy Horn was not there. This Jeremy kid had come to visit. We had a rule that if you make it through Wednesday night sparring, you get to stay. And we didn't have a full room. So you understand that applied to the world. You make it through Wednesday night sparring, you get the stick.
Oh, wow.
And I was the gatekeeper the last 3 years I was there. So I literally, just gave him a little talking to. I said, don't worry, man, you're, public. He was a jiu-jitsu guy anyway. Now, Jeremy Horn, for anyone who's listening, is definitely the most underrated fighter, but one of the best ground tacticians and martial artists standing. Any which way you want to cut it, Jeremy Horn, I could say you could breathe the air of Miletich for certain, and you can also breathe the air of Matt Hume when you speak of geniuses in combative sports.
Rory, if I may interject, if anybody at any point in conversation mentions that one of their favorite fighters is Jeremy Horn, not only do they know your shit, you immediately become friends with that person because they know everything they know what they're talking about.
Yes, and Jeremy's just the most pleasant guy to be around. I lived with him for a little bit in Utah to just get my ground game good. Me and Mike C went up there. So, any users, this kid and blah, blah, blah. So, second day comes in. This is important, Mike. Mm-hmm. I work out. It's a wrestling workout that I've never done. So my lungs are more blown out than I've ever felt. They just felt like someone scraping them, my bagpipes with like a butter knife. And I was like, everything was just so, I was just filled with lactic acid, but made it through it. All right. 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock practice shows up. It's a jiu-jitsu class. It was a little bit easier, but that night there was Stars and Stripes, which was a strip club, a bowling alley, and a pool hall all in one. And they would have fights there every Tuesday night. Monty would put them on. Monty Cox, my manager. So Pat Miletich asks me, hey, you want to come to the fights with us? And I was like, boy, do I. I'm going to run to the Best Western, put on a shirt, I think it was going to look nice and stuff. And he goes, no, you're fine in what you're in. I said, well, sir, my shirt's all wet. And he goes, I'll get you a shirt. I'll get you a shirt. Pat throws me a shirt. I wish I kept, but I remember smelling it on the way to the bathroom and just smelling him and just, so my underwear's soaked. So I throw those in the trash.
Wait, hold on. So you're caught in between being polite and knowing that this is possibly a setup. Is that where we're at?
Listen, I'm Mr. Chicago, and I didn't smell the setup still. I didn't smell the setup coming. I swear, Mike, I swear, you know me, dude. I swear I'm
dude, you're street smart. Like you're really
I was just like, dude, I get to go hang out with my idols. They're going to be in the same proximity as me. So, and I was like telling him about how I can wrap hands. So he's like, grab your gear and throw it in the back. I go, yeah, because I can wrap hands and stuff. Great. And so we get in his truck. It's a block drive. So we get out and he goes, all right, grab your bag. I was like, okay, I don't have tape. He goes, you're fighting tonight. And I stopped. And I said, I don't have underwear on. And he goes, you gonna fight tonight? I remember seeing so clearly in my head, like the drawing, a crossroads, a path, like a street going this way and a street just going straight. And I could have taken that moment and said no, bellied up to the bar, told all my friends, Pat Miletich let me work with the pros the first day and offered me a fight, is what a loser would do. I said, yes, sir, I am. So they signed me up with some 185-pound hick. Sorry, but we're talking hillbilly strength from a farm. He was a farm boy. I knocked him down in the boxing ring 8 times, Mike. 8 times, but I was moving my head at this time, and everything was. Nate Schroeder was the kickboxing coach for Miletich's, so he was very, very much so letting this go, and this kid hit hard, everything, but I knocked him out 8 times, so finally I put him through the ropes. Miletich, I could still feel his Bud Light on my back as he jumps over the ropes and hugs me and goes, pack your shit, move on down here. I'm going to turn you into a world champion. And he goes, wait, are you in college? And I was like, yes, sir. And he's like, fuck it. We'll figure it out. Move on down anyway. And I was like, still could have been a bar story. Still could have
Yeah.
bellied up to the bar and said, could have been. So it took me 8 months of drinking and bad decisions, of fear, pure fear. Couple calls to Miletich, I'll be down, until finally I got a phone call from my friend Bob Ingalls, and he said, pack all your shit tonight, throw your drawers in a bag, and you know what? Head down to Miletich's tonight. And I did do that. And I woke up. He could tell I was a little out of shape. I met him there at 9, sit in his office. We talked about, supplements, stuff like that. And I was like, I'm sorry about the weight. I was scared, to be honest. He goes, don't worry, that's going to come off like nothing. He said, you made it a little harder on yourself, but because when you're in boxing shape, you're shred. You know what I mean? Like, at least I was fucking.
It's pure cardio. Yeah, it's pure cardio.
Yeah. It's exactly. So I love. MMA is not a sport. It's not a sport. It's combat. Boxing's a sport.
Yeah.
Boxing's a beautiful sport. Boxing and kickboxing are the only sports I watch. So I can tell you that was Wednesday night. They put me with their best kickboxer, and I beat the living shit out of him. And they were like, man, they were just like, get down here as fast as you can. And I didn't. I took 8 months of fear and worry and doubt. And I just took off one night and showed up at Pat's, and it took me a while to get back in shape. I didn't know how to cut an angle. I didn't know anything about, getting the liver right, good things about stand-up. Obviously knew nothing on the ground. And my ground game just went, shot up. But most prolifically, this thing stands out, was that Pat actually was always adjusting my game to sprawl. I was always sprawling. Guys were doing other things, but I was always sprawling, hitting with the hips, working with a phenomenal wrestling coach, strongest person you'll ever know, Steve Rusk. He could throw a man through a wall. And he would just work with me. He's like, hit me with your hips like you're throwing a punch, and then punch the side of the rib the same side. So they knew what I was going to be, before, I did.
Sprawl and brawl.
I thought
Sprawl and brawl. Yep.
I thought I was going to. Yeah.
Little side note, Steve Rusk, when Matt Lindland, silver medalist in the Olympics, went to Miletich and did a shark pick with.
Thank you.
Steve Rusk got that takedown several times before Lindland was so frustrated with Rusk that he refused to allow somebody else. Dude, we're MMA history. Refused to allow anybody else in, and Rusk, legit.
Bro, he taught me how to wrestle. He was it. Holy cow. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this fucking podcast.
We just had Lindland on, and he admitted it.
Lindland's a dude, because I hang out with him for the IFL, and he's a great guy. He's but man, you remember when Robbie knocked him out with that lead uppercut, slipped his right hand and hit him with the lead uppercut. Forgot what organization it was, but it was when Robbie was traveling around.
It was Strike Force. Yeah,
beautiful fucking shot. Timing. Robbie's brilliant. Robbie's a better fighter than him.
Okay, so how long did you train at Miletich before you have your first fight? It's an Extreme Challenge 54. John Bulger is your opponent.
It was a full year and a half. I was very cautious. I wanted to be thorough, and it was the night before we were supposed to fight at this big auditorium, but the fire commissioner shut it down or whatever. I was supposed to fight.
That's right. And it went the next day. You guys found a different venue. I was there for this. I remember this.
Johnny, God bless you for taking that fight. Thank you. I've seen him at like bars and after parties and stuff, and he's like, I fought this guy, and I love you. You have a beautiful life with your wife, man. I find the great moments, because for guys like us, difficulties are often needed by great expectation. So you enjoy the little things, and you were very courageous for taking that fight. I was supposed to fight a guy named Trevor Garrett, who I took lightly, and he beat me. Then that was but first, John Bulger, went underneath his right hand and I threw a fucking hook from hell. And this thing put him, like, his tailbone hit the canvas before I believe his toes did. And he was just so out. And then I was in the corner and I hit him as hard as I could 4 more times. You know, I was like, just like, whoa. So remember this, guys.
Yeah, you had Miletich in your corner. Who else was in your corner?
You know what?
Was it Sean Tompkins?
No, but I could tell you, Sean was a good guy. It was always Genzi. Genzi came down. Jens Pulver.
Was it Pulver?
Jens Pulver.
Okay.
Pulverino, I don't know why, he kind of loves me. I mean, and I always had the biggest names in my corner. Matt, boom. Nobody would come to those little fights all the time, but when I was fighting, they'd come, and I get it now. So going from there, I take my second fight with a guy named, I think, Kurt Illeman. Sean Tompkins was there. He ends up catching.
He was in your. I think Tompkins was in your corner that fight.
He was in the other guy's corner because he was one of Tompkins'
Was he the
guys.
other guys? Oh,
yeah, he was Sean's guy, and he hit me with a right, like a right hook, but it's kind of hard to describe. But a right hook as I was moving into his right side as he was a southpaw, and he cut me real bad, and the doctor stopped it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I felt this growing sense of loss. So I took 6 months off, all that. And I was like, God, I'm nothing. I'm, this and that. I'm getting calls from Pat. I literally, though, once I decided.
Wait. So you took 6 months off from training as well?
I went back home and thought it was over. I was supposed to win every fight I was in. I was supposed to win by submission, KO, submission, KO. I was supposed to be the greatest ever.
Yeah.
So I come home. You think you'd fucking have your ego in check by the time, after all the beatings I went through?
Especially with Miletich. Yeah.
No, not me. High expectations. So the day I decided, it was the day I got a call from Pat, and he's like, you belong here. Get your ass back down here. There's people that miss you. And Jason Medina, my roommate, never stopped calling me. Come on, man. We love you. Come on now, Rory.
50 Fight Club member, Jason Medina.
Yep. He texts me every day. I love you. Every day. The bond these things built is so incredible. So I started going to the cemetery where Ed was buried, and I'd run the 4-mile loop, and then I would do the Buffalo Bills sprints. I'd go 1000s, 880s, 440s until I got it to where I was jogging back, and I did that routine my whole career until almost. And then I would jog home, which was 3 miles. So I do 7 miles. And
Jesus.
So I show up back, and Pat's like, he's back. He's like, Hollywood's back. And he's fucking shredded. And I'm like, yep. And he goes, guess what we're doing today, boys? We're doing the hill. We have this hill in Iowa that breaks all men. It breaks so many men. And you're supposed to do it 4 or 5 times before a fight and get 10. Pat's the record holder with 15. I came in second with 12. But and they all have to be in under a minute. And this thing's about 1.5 blocks long, 90 degrees up. It's sick. This hill's awesome. And that's how I know I'd win a fight, actually. That if I did it, yeah, that's how I know. If everything clicked and I did the hill, I knew I'd win the fight. So I got to the point where I was running that hill so much on my first day back that Pat made a bet with any of the guys that if they could beat Rory up the hill just once, that they could take tomorrow off or whatever, And finally, I finished 10 all. No, nobody beat me. And Pat's like, he's like, you're fucking coming back for something. You're coming back for something, fucking. And it was just awesome. You know what I mean? He knew how the fire in my heart. So I went with Fryklund to fight man at Lindland in Hawaii. Saw a few guys, got around some shows, and kicked everybody's ass. They just kept coming. I did lose to Trevor Garrett. I met a new girl.
Well, that's actually incredibly important. By you flying to Hawaii and kind of being in somebody else's corner, it's such a growing experience that's so important, man.
Dude, wait a good insert, man, because
Yeah.
that really is. You do get the vibe of the round, the smell of the anxiousness, that anxiousness turns into, oh man, my mouth's watering. I miss the smell. It smells like iron from the blood and popcorn. The arena, that's what it always smelled like to me. But yeah, those things you have to, that you have to be ready for. And then now you're comfortable walking into the, then you feel how soft the canvas is, oddly. You're like, geez, man, this thing's is kind of hard to bounce off of. But anyways, Tony loses the fight brilliantly. This was like telling us, grabbed the cage so hard, like Matt had him perpendicular to the floor. And, Tony's like, what are you going to do? I'm losing the fight anyway. Take a point away. So it was a growing experience. But when I got back, it was on. I have to commend Trevor Garrett. I had overlooked him, and I didn't know at Rich Franklin's camp, he was like the guy that would lose fights, but beat the shit out of everybody in the gym. And I just, like, Rich was like, right before, don't ever mistake Tim Sylvia for not being able to let you down right before you need a motivational comment. Because just prior to my walkout, he goes, oh yeah, and don't try taking him down. You're not going to take him down. He's like, you're not going to take him down. He's too athletic. He's too ripped and too fast. Thanks, Tim. All right, cool. So I get knocked down, and I go for a heel hook, and it's like an asshole. And, any smart person is just going to pound you out from there. So, it was a rightful stoppage, and Trevor and I still stay in touch, and he's very proud of that moment. He did beat me, and he earned, because part of martial arts, I will tell the fans and people who can hear the martial arts in me, is you will step away from martial arts a little bit and care about victory and not live in the present. You'll worry about the future and the past. And
well, I will say you were 9-1 going into Trevor Garrett, and like you had a pretty extensive amateur career, but you're 9-1. Your one loss was was kind of by cut stoppage, and it was a doctor that was a little gun shy. But in there, I mean, let's not ignore the fact that you beat Jason Guida by armbar, future Ultimate Fighter, Clay Guida's brother. Broke his arm.
Yeah,
and
at the Abbey.
There's a guy regionally here in the Midwest that most people probably listening to this podcast might not be aware of. His name was James Warfield. And James Warfield did a little bit of time, but James Warfield was
Are you serious?
Savage.
No. Are you serious, Mike?
James Warfield hit like a motherfucker. You watch James Warfield's fights?
I fucking beat him. We always said, you're in Warfield shape, Roar. You're in Warfield shape. Had I not been in the shape I was in, I was getting my dick kicked in that fight.
James Warfield is somebody that I think if Bare Knuckle was around, James Warfield would have been a world champion. He took people's, like you mentioned, taking time away from people just by hitting them. James Warfield hit. It's like going up into that fight. It was XFO. I think it was at 185, October 2nd, 2004. I remember I'm like, dude, we got this Southside Street kid versus a guy that's, what do they call it? Was Gerald Strebant was like Bangkok ready. This guy would be penitentiary ready.
He was, dude. He was called that day. And I was like, well, I've got that on him. But Monty, man, not looking out there.
No.
That dude was fucking killing me. And I'll tell this story to everyone because it might come time. I looked at Tony and I had 4 cuts around my eye already. And I looked at Tony and said, Tony, I'm done, man, after the first round. And he goes, get the fuck out of here. You're not done. And I said, okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
I guess I'm not.
Put Vaso on me. And Jens goes, fuck, come on, man. You fucking, he goes, I don't want to hear that fucking talk. He had to dip in, so, but again, I didn't have my peers, like my teammates that I work out with. I had the champions in my corner. You know what I mean? Every time. So I must have brought something to that place that obviously lives. And I went back out there and Tony goes, use your fucking leg kicks. And Kyokushin, I don't know if anyone knows this who hasn't done Kyokushin, but our leg kicks are worse than Thai's leg kicks. Our leg kicks will beat the Thais every day of the week.
Let me interject real quick. Semi Schultz, a lot of the high end K1 fighters, they all come from that background. So it's like you might be rolling your eyes at a traditional martial art, but that is the one that really carried over for striking for high end world champions. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And I literally, came out, hit him with the first. So I came out, I threw a Superman elbow, and then I followed up with the right leg kick inside. And then Brandon Adamson was there. Another not a great fighter, but a mind for the sport.
Good teacher.
And great mind for striking and everything. He's a judo black belt now and a great high black belt. He is a great teacher, is right. And he goes, man, when you were in there, I saw your punches got long. And I did. I after that first, I opened him up to square him up with the lead left kick, inside left low, and I hit him with the right hand on the jaw, and I just didn't stop. 8-pack combo, bam, 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 bam. And it's just, I had veins in my back. I was in such good shape. I did the hill 5 times. I sparred every Monday and Wednesday. I was lucky to have done that, for James would have destroyed.
Real quick, this guy fought 40 times. When you fought him, he was 2-1. He goes on to win his next 9 fights, 8 by knockout.
Yeah.
So there's no way you knew how tough this guy was going to be. They call him Unbreakable Heavy Hitter. That's his nickname.
He's cornered by Pat O'Malley. I can say this because I know Pat. I haven't talked to him in years. Pat O'Malley's a guy that did, I think, 8 years for a murder that he didn't commit, but he refused to tell on the person that did it. Awesome. So I mean, that's the type of like crew that James Warfield is coming to the cage with. Like,
James is real. He's real.
Yeah, real deal. 100% real deal. And in fact, the only way you really beat James Warfield is by taking him down. And when you beat him on your feet, I remember watching that, just mind blown by that outcome. And the only reason I knew is because I knew O'Malley. O'Malley's, he's just like, nah, dude, this dude drops the worst word possible in front of him, in front of his teammate. Nah, this guy's the real deal. Wait till you see this. And James Warfield's the real deal, for sure.
Yeah.
Standing
Let's
up.
all remember that outcome. Yep. The outcome of that fight was Rory Markham winning by TKO.
Standing
was beautiful. I finished my last shot was uppercut right hand. Prior was 6 other punches.
Yeah,
it was
crazy. And then Joey, Victor Moreno is right around the corner. Extreme Challenge 61. Victor Moreno still fighting. 50 Fight Club member. Yeah, 50 Fight Club member. I think he's got like 60 some odd fights. But your manager, Monty Cox, has got you just Jason Guida. He got you James Warfield and Victor Moreno all within your first 10, 11 fights.
And didn't realize that. I'm better friends with Monty now. I was scared to call him because it would mean the anxiety would begin to get a fight. I wasn't one of these guys. I've watched Ben Rothwell kiss his ass, take him out to dinner, and then fuck him over when it was time to pay him. Matt Hughes did the same thing. Unfortunately, Rob and him had their issues, but Monty has lost a lot of money when he's invested. He gets fighters great things for a reason. Like Frankie Edgar had to drop him. He said, I just got to drop you. It's the percentage. He's like, Frankie was going down to coach when Monty was sitting in first class. He's like, you didn't negotiate in your contract that you still get the champions first class. He's like, I get to throw my guys, Frankie, come on. And Frank's like, I know, I should have stuck with you, Monty. Like, so Monty looks out for you, but wasn't either. He knew I was tough as shit or was rolling the dice on me because I didn't know. But Victor Moreno had the best jab and a flying knee taught to him by my teammate Spencer Fisher was what he hit me with 3 times in the opening round. Opening bell, boom. First flying knee. Whoo! Rocked. Okay. Second flying knee. So when I get hit and I get rocked, Mike, you know what it is to be rocked. I see Scooby-Doo, and I'm not bullshitting. This is funny to everybody, but I see the van. They've got the green fucking van, and Shaggy comes out first, and then that redhead girl, and then that weird blonde dude. And the further I get into the potholes, I've never seen Scooby. Scrappy's as far as I've made it, and it's just how fuck. I don't know what happened there, but I see it every time I get rocked. So I'm seeing Scrappy. I'm saying hi to fucking Elza or whatever her name is, and or here comes Scrappy, and I first and only takedown. I took him down, and I got him in. My best thing at the time was a triangle, and didn't work. But I slipped to his back. I got a rear naked choke, and it was just a beautiful ending to a boxer's enormous screw up. Because the first thing I did after the fight was blow my nose while I had a cracked orbital, and it gives you an eye, and it farts. It goes and it blows up to the size of a golf ball. I've seen baseballs. So I had my eyes shut, and literally, I've got the groupies in the background coming to the hotel room. We got a shot of me with my eye closed, and it's like, I mean, I just, he cracked my sinus. I mean, it was, how boxers never blow their noses because of that reason.
Yeah.
In fights,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's the first thing I did after the fight. So drinking wasn't even fun. But what was fun is Ryan McGivern kid come out for that fight. Now McGivern is another total badass that will be overlooked.
I think McGivern. I mean, we're in the IFL. The IFL really packaged people and helped the UFC with marketing more than they ever could have done themselves. And if you look at like the totality of fights that people took, you and McGivern had a murderer's row. McGivern is an underappreciated fighter.
Mike, thank you. And I'll tell that to Rye.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
He's another one of the great runners on the team. If not,
okay,
him and Ryan McGivern, he's might be the best. I can't say the best, but because I'm known as the best, but like he's just there's something in running that you have to absorb or you're not going to do well in the sport. It also does wonders for your jaw. Little bouncing. Why do you think the Diaz's don't get knocked out? That little whatever. But so McGivern, after that fight, came out. My best friend after Ed was Pat White. And he's like, McGivern goes, it's about magic. He loves magic. And he goes, I'm going to show you a magic trick, guys. He goes, Pat, hold the bottle of Jack Daniels and hold the Coca-Cola in your hand, the liter of Coke. So here's Pat. My friend Pat, he was very big. He had done some anabolics or whatever. And he was, but McGivern picked him up and spun him around like a clock. Like it was nothing. But what was supposed to happen is nothing was supposed to, regurgitate from the bottle, but he's spinning around and the Coke is fizzing all around the fucking room and the Jack's going everywhere. And McGivern's like, well, and he's so nice. He's as nice as Jesus. He's like, dude, he's like, that's not supposed to work like that, but you get the idea. I'm like, yeah, don't spin him again. Cause I saw his head this close to the floor. Like he was just, we'd always go light, except sparring, but like he could wrestle with the best of them. I just don't think he had any. I know he didn't have any killer in him.
No, he was fighting for the sport. He was a sport type guy, where you were.
You need to have
a kill type guy. Yeah, you had mentioned Trevor Garrett. It's your second amateur loss. Obviously, you said that there's some ego issues when something like that takes place. But shortly thereafter, you sign a contract with the IFL. What was that phone call like?
The phone call, I called Pat that night and my eyes were all blood. Because, dude, Trevor can do a backflip on a bike on doubles. Like, still to this day, he's shredded. Like, he's a natural athlete and he's another one without the violence. And I called Pat, maybe not knowing I wasn't going to be, but checking if I was still going to be on the team. And I said, Pat, you still want me on the IFL team, crying and all that? And he's like, sure, but what are you talking about, man? He's like, it's one loss, quick loss. He's like, he's like, listen, man, he's just get some rest, get back down here right away because we got to get a photo shoot in and all that. And he's like, then we'll be off to the races. This is it, man. This is your start. And you put a camera in front of me, and I'm gonna take it over. I'll take over that fucking room. I don't care who's in it. So we had a lot of fun. The IFL took to me, and I also did some of my best fighting in my life there. And it was because Yoda was in the room with us every second of every day of every way. So Yoda is Pat Miletich, and anyone would agree. He would teach us all the little things, all the littlest nuances. But my first fight was the setup fight. It was, we're going to maybe make Mike Pyle the star.
Yeah. So wait, let me get this. So Mike Pyle, who is an absolute savage. So does Pat call you or does Monty call you for the IFL? Because IFL, just people at home, it's a team sport. Quad City Silverbacks was your team. So it was, you guys were probably one of the few actual teams that competed. Everybody else was kind of like mix and match.
Yeah, from this
whoever.
city, from that city. Yeah. No, we had the unity. I think it was no, it wasn't Monty, it was Pat.
So Mike Pyle is your opponent, absolute stud. Joey, could you give his record up until that point?
Okay, so he's on an 8-fight win streak with all
I remember
finishes.
looking at that every day.
Yeah.
With
every fight's a finish. Yeah, leading up to the Rory fight, he's won his last 8 all finishes.
So April 29, 2006, you got a kid from the south side of Chicago putting in the work, bringing his lunch to work, as they say, blue collar guy. And you got a guy that's kind of, I'm not going to say catered to because that's not the right thing, but the opportunities have been provided to him more so than it has ever been that of yourself.
Thanks, Mike.
It's true.
So I took advantage of that. And the loss to Trevor was perfect because I had the in shape going still. And I sprung off that and just, I did the hill the right amount of times. And I was under a minute every time. And to get under a minute on this hill is hard. And I would get it to the point where toward the end, I was going faster than I was toward the middle.
It's insane.
Yeah. Dude, when the SEAL Team 5 came down and trained with us, we had a 3-mile timed run. Pat's done a few things to me that are tricks. And every time beforehand, he grabs my chin and he goes, son, I want you to beat him. I said, this is their thing. They just came out of fucking buds. They're going to run 3 miles in under 8. I was like, I'll tell you what I always tell you. If you've asked me some crazy shit, I said, I will do my very best, sir. And I cooked off and I was Prefontaine that day. And I came in winning at a 16:42. And a guy who was about 5 inches taller, long, built to run, came in at 17:05. And he was like, shit, he's fast. He's fast. Wow. Yeah, I came in at 16:42, but he said he wanted me to win. So getting into the Pyle fight, I remember there's going to be a moment here that was so special to me. I was scared the whole week, and I think it was obvious, but it's so obvious to a fighter. We can smell it. It's just.
You got to be a little nervous. You have to be. You have to. It's your biggest moment.
Yeah, but this kind of nervous was getting to be obvious. So Spencer looks over at me. We're on a bus to go do some photo thing, and he goes, "Hey, Roar." Now, Spence, I admired so much. Spencer Fisher is one of the most. You watch Spencer Fisher, Sam Stout too. You will find an instance where one fighter that is Spencer never entered the same way twice, and that is the brilliance of a striker. If you can enter differently every time on an opponent for that long, you're a genius.
Yeah, you're brilliant.
He was a fight genius. So he looked at me and he goes, Roar, look at me. And I was looking and he goes, look at me in the eyes. And he goes, you've got to believe you can do this. And I said, yeah, no, yeah. And he goes, no,
Yeah,
listen to me.
sure.
Yeah. He goes, no, listen to
Who,
me.
me? Yeah, okay.
He goes, the fight I was fighting Thiago Alves, they were banging the pads and he was kicking the pads and all the Brazilians were going, oh, and I was scared to death. And when I went out there, I moved my fucking head and hit him with a 6-piece every time I could. And he did. He went out there, moved his head once, boom, chin music, boom, chin music, boom, chin music, until he had him down triangle. He had to tell the ref that he was tapping. You know what I mean? So I was like, and I respected Spencer, for I have seen that boy spar. And thanks to UFC for taking care of your fucking athletes. You understand what the absolute tyranny that is going to come in the next 10 years. You're going to experience it. So UFC, I'm sorry, Ari Emanuel, that you had purchased it, but because we were going to be working in the same industry. But I'll tell you, do the right thing. Do the right thing. So Spencer's brain got real messed up, and it was he took every war he could. If the UFC called him on 2 weeks' notice, he had a Bud Light in his hand, he'd take the fight. And I'm not talking.
So Spencer Fisher, in our interview with him, he said the last time he was able to walk a straight line was against Hermes Franca, and he had like about a half dozen more UFC fights after that.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that's legit shit. So with Mike Pyle, your confidence, how do you go in? Because I just watched it this morning. The confidence you had walking in that once that bell rang, something clicked, like a light switch flipped.
We're gonna hang out, bro, because you were good.
Dude.
Something you and I'm gonna tell you something you missed in watching that everyone's missed it. Watch this. So before we go out, 2 things had happened. My name gets called and I'm worried about production. I'm like, oh shit, my name got called. I hadn't warmed up yet. Jens goes, fuck them, man. They ain't like they can have the show without. She's like, listen, they're waiting on you. You let them wait. So we're hitting mitts. And out comes back from the curtain, Spencer. And he goes, I want you to hit him with a Superman punch and a skip head kick. He goes, Superman punch. He's like, work on it. We worked on it 3 times and Jens felt it. He goes, that's it. He's there. I'd never thrown I don't think I'd thrown Superman punch until that day. So I remember when he came in, I sprawled on him hard, good. Came in with a kick. I blocked it perfectly. I remember feeling him, and I'm like, okay, he can kick. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to create some space here. And I was like, it just was like, I just thought about Spencer. And Robbie at the time was at a little bit of a low. He was in the background, but he was so there for me. And that meant so much. It was very, like I said, I kind of moved down the paths.
Good bond. Yeah.
Yeah. And I could see the blurry vision of the pile, like it concentrated on the chest. I could see Robbie's hat though in the corner off of, so he had sights on me, and I threw the Superman punch, connected. We know what happened there. And I threw fucking fists of fury as fast as you could throw fucking ground and pound. That's how you ground and pound people, with the fucking fire up your ass like you're going to get a bullet if you don't get it done. But I knocked him out twice. I knocked Pyle. You can see it if you're great, and I know you are. I knocked Pyle out twice, and I remember saying it in my head, fuck, I've got marijuana milk ref in this thing. Herb, Dean, marijuana milk. It's an inside joke. Like Dean the milk, Herb, but that's not to say. But Herb Dean's great referee, but he does let it go. So I remember, and I've knocked people out since before I had enough pubes. Dude, literally hitting him, and he went out, woke up, and then I said to myself, you better fucking turn on the gas, dude. And I hit him again 1,000,000 times until Herm's like, that's it. But Herb missed the first time he went out. And
Herb, especially a guy like Mike Pyle, that's a real good nail from a good camp. He's going to let that one go a little bit.
Watch that fight.
Yeah.
Watch that fight again, because you're going to see there's just and he was out, and I know it. I can.
Yeah, you felt it.
and he literally was out. And then I hit him enough times because you can hit enough to get, and they wake back up, and then their chin's twice as strong. So then I hit him so much harder and faster. Oh,
Could you imagine getting knocked out and then waking up only to see another punch coming at you again? Oh, God. Suck. That would suck. Yeah.
I remember breathing that day right after I'd won. I climbed on the ropes and I knew they needed a shot. I was like, woo, yeah. And I remember telling myself, well, Herb held my right hand and I was, to the left. And I remember said, breathe this moment in and look around and remember this is a memory for yourself. And I did it.
Herb
And
said
I saw
that, or
Joe,
did you say that? You said that to yourself?
said that to myself, and I did
Okay.
it. I saw Joe Rogan in the stands. But after I had won, right after I had won, I caught, there's a cut of the fight, not that's out there that I can find anymore, but that I used to have, where I see Robbie jumping up and down about 3 feet in the air while I'm doing my victory jump to the ropes. Like, he was so happy for me, because right on stage, this is another thing, the reason I wasn't going to lose that fight. This is also what happened to me besides those miraculous things. Robbie told me he loved me, and I love you, guy, but I would have walked through fire for that guy. Like, he's looking down his shoes. He goes, I know you're going to do it. I love you. And so soft, so soft. And I was like, did I just hear what I hear? Like, I still don't believe it, and I'm like, I'm going to figure out a way to kick the shit out of it. Kick the shit. Listen, guys, I never went into a fight. I don't know the rules. I don't. I know how to be a gentleman. I don't know the rules. I don't know the rules. I didn't go to rules meetings. I literally was going to not shoot takedowns, and I'm going out on my shield, or I'm putting you out. And I think my double hook to left, is probably still my favorite knockout against Healy, because it's just such a boxer's knockout. And just that accuracy to the chin. It's just something I love.
Yeah, and you would like kind of fake your jab, like you would throw your jab with intent, and it was more just to kind of like knock hands away.
Yeah.
And then you come with a heavy punch. Like it was something like
twist my hips.
You see it now, but you never really saw it then. Like you would use your jab more than just as a thing to touch somebody. It was more knock hands down, move their head a little bit, kind of put it where you want it, and you're right to be right behind it.
That right hand, serious business. So I hit him with 2 rights and 2 lefts. But go ahead.
Yeah. So Mike Pyle, he also fought Josh Neer, one of your teammates. Were you surprised at that outcome?
Did Neer lose?
Neer lost. He got knocked out.
Yeah, no. Josh's chin and everything he's been through. Josh was a legendary
street fighter. Another street fighter.
But they had a Tuesday night fights, and he had 100 of them.
The Toad Holler. One of his wins was against just fought in BKFC in Montana. Or no, in Nebraska. Come on, bro. I'm gonna think. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, no, Josh Neer is legit, dude. Josh Neer is legit.
Well, that's Spencer and him became best friends after their fight. I remember Spencer was so nervous. He was reading the Underground every day and getting, because there's a million Neer fans, because what Neer would do for his town, everyone would go to this bar and go watch him kick whoever's ass it was, and he was soccer kicking guys back, and he was Pride Rules in this place. And then he goes to MMA and accrues a career that doesn't reflect that he's got 100 fights before that, But, some of us all do. But, like, his fight with Spencer was serious, and they became best friends. And he moved to Miletich to be with Spence.
Houston Alexander. There it is. Sorry, he fought Houston Alexander at the Toad Holler fight night.
Who did?
Neer.
Recently?
Did what?
He beat on those Tuesday night fights, he showed up drunk after a party, and I think Chad Mason was the promoter. And
Yeah.
through some trash talk to each other, he went and fought Houston Alexander on one of those Tuesday fights and beat him. Yeah, we talked about that when we interviewed Josh Neer. Yeah, it's crazy story. How were your sparring sessions with Neer?
He didn't move his head a lot.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jesus. You, Neer, and Spencer Fisher. I think people would pay to watch that training practice.
Mm-hmm. I was good, man. I was very, very good in the room. And in the field. I remember just one time, Pat had us doing this drill, phone booth. Don't get as far as like, a glove in between each other. So it was all about having a move. You know what I mean? I remember starting to hit Neer so hard and missing his shots. Even Robbie came over and he goes, all right. He's like, take it down a notch. And I was like, oh, but I'll tell you this, I've never knocked Neer down. That guy, he's just, so to answer your question, he has seen too much to ever get a glimpse of what you could have had. You know what I mean? You wish you had Doc's time machine and you'd be like, okay, here's where Neer is. Take the Alexander Day minus Pierce and you put him in anywhere in the world and you've got a champion too. He's just overfought, underpaid, you know what I mean? And that is unfortunate because I have understood my position. It took me a long time, but I am one of the writers of Genesis, the book of Genesis of this sport. I have to regale the tales that made the things happen and why outcomes were the way they are. So to say that it's been written correctly is to not say anything at all. We have to remember that Japan invented this art and they understood it as martial art. They didn't use their fighters. They were paid well. They were taken care of. And you know what that does? That buys you trainers, that buys you hospitals, that buys you brain scan. You can't get a CT just because you can, if you don't have insurance. I fought my whole career without insurance.
It's bonkers.
Yeah. And until I got off my mom's, it's like, and that's the reality of it. And we were not paid handsomely enough. The IFL paid well because you had consistency was key because impulsiveness and ability to handle money is not a fighter's strength.
No,
because we're on a roller coaster and we get that high and we're like, let's live it up. Let's go. We're going on vacation, coming back, I'm buying a Lexus, stupid shit.
I got no money left. When's my next
fight?
Still
Want that high. Yeah. And you're like, oh man, but when you're young, you're like, oh, I could fight again. And it's still habitual. I study finance every day. I try very, very hard to be, pragmatic and be very, 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 very studious with my money. I'm saying not
logical. You try to be a little logical.
Not frugal. Yeah. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the IFL, you kind of became one of their spokespeople. Like if you had to pick like a group of people that they really got behind, it was like yourself. It was Ben Rothwell.
I'll tell you what that was.
There was like a lot of the guys from. I got my list here. I don't have it on paper. I'm doing it on my phone.
I was the IFL's man.
Yeah.
I went to Pat White's wedding. Who was my best friend. And I told them I was not going to be fighting at the Chicago event. I had not realized the politics of the game was if they put a fight show in your town, it's because of you and you're on every poster and you're on a billboard in LA. So, choose this over your friend's wedding. And he gave me a bunch of shit about it but Pat and I became so close because we've been childhood friends, but he lost his brother because someone angrily threw a cinder block that was used to keep the door open off the top of the northern Evans scholarship house, and it landed directly on Brian's head.
Oh,
So he had lost his brother gruesomely. So we had bonded in our pain, and I lost Pat to alcoholism like 3 years ago. You know, so
you're
I
talking
was
Pat's last name?
Pat White.
Pat White.
He
Yeah.
was
Okay.
a journeyman engineer. Every fight, he was at every one of my fights. And I just remember like, wow, you know, he was in so much awe that I was at the Pearl Palms. They threw an after party for me. He went across the street to get cigarettes. He couldn't believe that I literally had the bouncers and everybody looking for Pat, because it's hard to cross the street in Las Vegas. I was like, you make
It's
sure
true. It's
he
true.
gets back in here. And I didn't even start the party yet. And he was just so thanks for wait. Oh my God, I can't. I said, Pat, you are the reason we're doing this. You understand here? My cousin, Pat, I'm here with you. I'm showing a few people this thing. This is for a few people.
In terms of the IFL, you did so much press for them, but if you look at it, it's Brad Blackburn, future opponent, Andy Reese, now a commissioner, Mike Dolce, Chris Wilson, Gerald Harris, Andre Gusamo. Those guys, just to name a few, you guys really became like the name of that brand. Like Bellator will take somebody that leaves the UFC, make them a retread, and then make them speak for Bellator. The IFL, what they did right was they took people internally and put them at the forefront. And it kind of, in my opinion, at the time, it showed the lack of depth in the UFC farm system, because the IFL cleaned up, bro, at this time.
Yes, dude, our stock was rated higher than the New York Yankees for a second, but literally, after Pat's wedding, I was supposed to go on a USO tour with the IFL.
Wow.
So I missed a fight and I missed that. So it was a big no-no. And Keith Evans, the vice president, got a big hard on for me.
So he was current president of Fight TV, Keith Evans. Go ahead.
And he literally was so mad that Ben jumped on the opportunity, and you see Ben's fat ass. No, Ben Rothwell.
Ben Rothwell, okay.
Jumped on the opportunity because they wanted me to be on the cover of the DVDs. They wanted me to do a photo shoot with the U.S. the troops and all this, and I turned this all down because I was hungover and I missed my flight. And they were like, "We'll get you another flight. We'll do this. We'll do that." And I was like, "I just don't think so." And I literally, you know, if I had a dad in my life, you're damn right I would have been there for the fight. You know what I mean? But I have always gotten to make my own decisions. But this is a lesson learned hard way, and virtue is something that has to be learned, not taught.
Mm-hmm.
Lessons learned where you develop humility and virtue.
So you're talking like the show that you missed, May 19th, 2007. I think you were supposed to fight Mark Miller at that time.
Yes. He knocked out near that
night. That would have been a friggin' amazing fight. Yeah, he knocked out near that night. Yeah. He
was a knockout puncher.
Yeah. So Brad Blackburn, in your second IFL fight, I'm just going to be like really direct about this. At this time, a lot of people, including myself, were like, "Man, he finished Mike Pyle, but Brad Blackburn's a professional boxer. Rory's a sprawl and brawl type guy." I know, like in high school, you fight, I think Mike Remegi, you fought him a few times in boxing. You guys were real close. But like those days are much different than fighting a guy like on Brad Blackburn's type caliber of level. Why don't you tell people what happened in that fight?
Well, one thing got told to me that you put me at, I wasn't even really aware, was that Robbie goes, "Man, I wish I was fighting in the IFL. You get to fight Brad Blackburn," but he fought Chris Wilson. So he was taking the performance against Chris Wilson, who, Chris, you handedly beat me. and compared those two and thought it would be an easy night for me. So I thought it would be an easy night for me. So I was well trained. I had gotten taken down, and I was using every different little getup we had learned and I was everything Pat taught me to save myself on the ground was just being blasted through by Brad. And people thought, Miletich said this just beautiful speech in the middle of the round, but people thought the fight was over by the first round. I mean, it was not, it just wasn't, because this is something different. Pat looks at me and he goes, "Are you all right? Then go do it." And I come out with a lead cross hook cross. And I remember when I hit him last, his feet left the ground and his face hit the canvas. And I was like, I just had to get my punches off. There we go. But I got to tell you, it was probably my ignorance that brought me the bliss, because I knew very little of that.
Jesus, dude.
I never watched tape of my opponents.
Yeah. If you talk to like boxing circles, they say in the boxing gym, like in sparring, high-end boxers, he would give them fits. So, in my head from the couch, I'm thinking, if Rory doesn't counterpunch this guy, he's going to have his lunch taken from him. And you finish him, and then you fight a Brazilian black belt. In my head, it's Marcelo.
1-2 world. Yeah.
Yeah. Marcelo Acevedo, world champion jiu-jitsu guy.
World champ. Yeah.
This guy's going to the ground. All right. This green guy from the south side of Chicago that's making big waves. He's maybe fighting above his level. Now he's got a world champion black belt that you went to the ground with.
Yeah. Yeah. So I came out, and he had got me to the ground with this beautiful, now I know it's a technique. If you watch the footage, he traps one foot with the leg, and then he cuts the back of my, at the hinge of your back of my knee, and he trips me and keeps me there, then sucks the leg up like a vacuum. It was like fighting a fucking anaconda. And he had heel hook in like that.
Dude, how close was that?
I prayed, and I said to God, I said, I'm going to let him break it, and I'm not going to mow the lawn on Saturday. Kind of like that. Just kind of like, I'm going to be going through pain. Do I deserve it? You choose. And I rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled, and it was that close. And I just said, fine.
I don't know how you got out of that, dude. I don't know how you got out of that.
I just had my fucking foot in his asshole, and I was just pushing out. I got, and we stood up. It was Superman punch, and I slicked my hair back beforehand. Superman punch, left hook, and then I passed his guard, sat on his fucking knee, and ground and pounded. And he was, his eyes rolled back twice, and he was like, no, don't stop, and I agree. Always argued the split stoppage, but nothing was going to change there. You know what I mean? But I didn't think that I would ever try to pass his guard. You know what I mean?
Well, in terms of like benchmarks, there's certain things that you got to have in order to become a veteran fighter. You got to be a black belt. You have to. Yeah. And if they're from Brazil, that's even more. I mean, that's
if they won the worlds.
Yeah.
Shit. You know what I mean? Like, but me and Henzo were so tight that I love Henzo Gracie. Henzo, I love you, buddy. Miss you. Dude, when I was going through a hard time, man, there was a time I was going through some stuff, dude. And Henzo's like, Rory, move out here. I don't care if you bring girls or cats, birds. I don't give a shit. Come out. He's a beautiful man,
He's my favorite Gracie. That's my favorite Gracie, dude.
Yeah. Yes.
Now Henzo actually fought on this card against your coach. So you didn't have Pat in your corner for this fight. How was that experience?
You know what? It was overlooked because I got him out of there and won. And
gotcha.
You know what? No one, like in the corner, I don't ever remember a situational like corner experience that was, except for with Tony Fryklund, him telling me, no, you're not done. that wasn't a pain in the ass. I had to tell my boxing coach to get the fucking towel off my face so I could breathe. I'm talking, and I'm like, and Pat's yelling at me, but I'm like, I get it. You know what I mean? Stick to the game plan. And it was always, every fight, his advice was, go out there and get after him. Are we ever gonna? Am I ever gonna get a chance to? You ever got a new thing for me? But I was gonna save my trick was I was gonna save my kicks until the UFC.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to the gym. Matt Hughes had a reputation of being somebody that was pretty alpha in the gym. And how was your experience initially with Matt?
Initially, I was overlooked initially for a little bit until I was needed, by him. I became needed. Dude, this is you, and it's everybody. But I was just the only guy I got told not to go hard on when we were sparring by Pat on Wednesday. And on Wednesday night, we would literally have an ambulance standing, waiting in the back. Yeah, we had this door that we would keep open because Pat would turn the heat up to 100, and it would get so hot and humid in there. He needed some kind of something so we weren't slipping on the mats. And an ambulance would be waiting there. One time I hit a kid and he fell and his arm broke and it looked like a bridge.
Ugh.
Yeah. Uker ran to the almost puked, and he's like, I've seen that a lot at Gable's rooms, but he's like, oh, yeah, I'm telling you. But Matt just didn't have it standing. I remember one time I took him down and Pat got all over him, gave him some shit. I was like, oh. And I remember Matt did things I couldn't comprehend. He tapped my calf inside, and all of a sudden I was on his shoulders. And I said, Matt, don't you dare fucking slam me. And he didn't, thankfully. But seriously, I mean, because I could have given a litany of every fucking Wednesday, bro. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
It's terrible.
Yeah, and I said, don't you? And I said it like a man. I said, don't you dare fucking slam me. And he didn't, but he did have an issue with Brock Lesnar. What did Larson Lesnar when he came down?
Wait, Larson or Lesnar? Because I know Brock
No. Oh, there's a Larson who was great. Lesnar is the wrestler, right?
Both of them are wrestlers. One's a heavyweight, one's 170.
Who's
Lesnar, WWE.
Yeah, we're talking. Yeah, this guy came down, and Rothwell was told to take it easy on him. The only 2 times in the history of the gym this was said. So Matt ends up rolling with him and getting him in a rear naked choke, and Brock jumps off of his feet and body splashes backward. Matt chokes him unconscious. Good hold, still holding. Let's go to make sure he's out. And all of us were circling around him, looking down at him. And Miletich goes, don't ever fucking let me see you do that again, or we're all going to be on top of you like a pack of fucking wolves. And
he gave that warning to Lesnar, huh? Wow.
Yeah, I think Lesnar left. Well, he wasn't there the next day, so he was gone, yeah.
Did you see that often? High-end people show up and not make it past that Wednesday workout?
Yeah, they didn't like the level of combat that was going on. I've seen that. Yes, I can say it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, Lesnar didn't like it, I could tell. And that was like, guy was like talking with fucking can of dry paint. I couldn't get a word out of the guy. I'm like, showering. I'm like, oh, but the one thing he did say was, he was depressed though. Let me give him that. And he was depressed because he was overworked and he was trying something new and he was scared. He just got choked out by a 170-pound man and told by a group of killers who can actually hurt him, will hurt him, if he ever pulls some egotistical shit. So that's kind of guy who obviously then went and built his own camp. You know what I mean? Sometimes babies get the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't give a shit, Brock. Come on, I'm from the South Side, dude. I'll chin piece the shit out of that fucking jaw. It's just the bottom line is you just don't do things like that when you're a guest in someone's gym. And that's where I was baptized in blood.
Yeah, that's a bond you guys. You certainly make. Brock later formed a camp with like Potapano, Mike Russo. Yeah, a
He's
couple other
picks.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Russo was a cop for us, right?
Yeah. He's still on the job. Still on the job.
Is he?
What about Joe Jordan?
Joe is, dude, well, a chin from Croatia. I don't know where they make great chin, Mexico. And dude, his chin was just something else. And Joe was the kind of guy who never put the cardio in to be great, but he had the greatness in his head. He was a well traveled and experienced martial artist. And he also was a great giver of simple advice like Mark Twain has. You know? Yeah, I'm serious.
Have you seen his kid? Have you seen his kid? What he's doing?
I saw the beginnings of what he was maybe going to make into being a sick stud. Like,
yeah, stud wrestler, #1 in the country wrestler. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I saw the beginnings of that. I'm like, something's gonna happen with this unless the kid doesn't like it. He's really the #1.
Yeah.
Good job, Joe. I saw you do that a long time ago, but that's all Joe. I mean, whoever's coach is, they're not at home and they did not see the kind of, he had him even like so respectful to people and just a brilliant raise right there. Yeah.
Ben Uker was in your room. Obviously, he's a Gable student. He's somebody that I thought was going to do, he had great things on the horizon. And I don't know if it was the Miletich room or maybe just fighting wasn't for him. What was your opinion of Ben?
He was my alternate.
Yeah.
So that's a tough, but me and Ben Uker might have been one of my best friends, definitely, if not my best friend down at camp. We would make sure that no matter where we were at with the IFL, they would room us together, all this different shit. And he had a bad knee, like you couldn't even low kick him. He had such like a brace on his knee, and he had given out for Gable, he couldn't give off. I went there to give all for Miletich. He gave all to Gable. He would tell Gable stories where they would be locked in the sauna and Gable would start piling weights and shit and he would tape the fucking window shut and they would have no idea and people would lose their mind to mentally break his guys. They'd be banging on the walls. You're gonna fucking kill you, all this shit. One day he was eating apples. He didn't like how easy the wrestlers were wrestling. He started throwing apples. He had a crate of apples. He started throwing them out in the mat just to frustrate guys mentally. Yeah, so I think a lot of that couldn't just transfer because you need more than wrestling. You need to give respect to said other things to make yourself feared and successful in the sport. So for me, it was like eye-opening all these new things. I love learning a new technique. So if it's jiu-jitsu, okay. If it's, wrestling, absolutely. How? Dude, please, if it's boxing, if somebody can, then I'm gonna chew your ear off. If it's Muay Thai, that's where they dance on the razor's edge, man. If you watch one FC, like there are some Muay Thai players out there that are beautifully like sound. And then there's this thing that I just found out, I'm very embarrassed to say as a martial artist, where they have been doing it in Miramar. It's a national sport. Holy shit. I mean, whoa.
Yeah, that's legit, bro.
Whoa, dude.
Muay Thai. Muay Thai with headbutts. Yeah, it's Muay Thai with headbutts, man. It's fucking nuts.
Technical headbutting with flying, jumping off. It's so beautiful. Muay Thai is beautiful to me too, as well. I find the movement and rhythm of boxing something that you could see out of someone who's been conditioned since youth, and it's just very, 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 very timing oriented. If you get to the highest level of appreciation, and so those are my sports.
Yeah. November 2nd, November 1st, 2006. You're in Portland, and Janice Dickinson is doing a reality show where you didn't give a shit, but two, and I'll explain. You got unfairly blamed for something and really didn't even care to defend yourself.
Yeah, because it was so obvious I didn't do it. I had to give the guy a fucking tug because I was so dehydrated. So what this was a quick tug to the old.
Well, it's a weigh-in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you go to a weigh-in. There's this Janice Dickinson show around. We needed they were great marketing. So we had all these model-esque ring girls and all this. And they said to me after I had weighed in, hey, we're gonna do a towel where you have to get naked, and then we're gonna just have you get naked, weigh in, and then redress. No mention of the towel. That was scripted for Dickinson, because I talked to her after the fight. And literally I am in the bathroom eating a banana, chugging water, tugging at my fucking penis, and I'm trying to come on, guy, dude, get up, get some fucking blood.
Wait, Rory, to your credit, the weight that leaves you first starts there, and then it goes everywhere else. There you go.
It's true.
It's solely true. And I'm like, oh, motherfucker. And then I got this PR girl going, are you ready? I said, not at all.
Not
and
really.
I'm just chugging, and I'm just like, was pumping her. And all right. So, but I got big cock for an Irish guy. So, but I'm like, dude, all right, she's ready. Let's keep her going. And I'm like, no, because you have to understand, I'd cut 22 pounds, 21 pounds, and your body does, weight comes right out of your balls and your dick first, and then everywhere else later. And they didn't tell me. I just had this. Actually, I was semi-single at the time, so I want to impress one of the ring girls. Either one, didn't matter. Like, hey, go home with this dude was my intention for real. And then they pulled that stunt where one of the ring girls dropped the towel. As soon as she dropped it, I go to, and you can watch over, I go for the quick tug, make sure she's on the right side, because I dress to the left, and I'm like, boom, and I just fucking open my arms. Fucking suck it. Fuck off. Not suck it. I'm not like that thinking. I'm just saying, like, fuck off. Fuck, this is, I'm proud of my penis. You know what I mean? Wait until you see it hydrated.
So Joe, what takes place is the two girls, it's like the Janice Dickinson modeling show. And I think they wanted this to be kind of like the season finale.
Great drama. Yeah.
And Janice is like, the ring card girl and Janice were like, he did it. When you watch it, Rory's hands weren't even anywhere near the towel. Like, they weren't even close.
Right.
And his reaction was, all right, I'm naked. Everybody can see it. It's, who gives a shit?
My arms are spread out, and I'm just like, I'm not fucking either of these girls now.
I'm not moving.
Yep.
I'm not moving.
There's a picture of a meat-gazing dude who's got his eyes on my balls. And it's like one of like the Getty images, and this dude was like a rigger, and he's staring at my dick, and it's caught. It's very easy to find.
I'm sure his buddies gave him hell over that.
Yeah,
I hope so, man. I hope so.
So
I'm sorry,
they
dude.
kept saying it's Rory, and then like people, they're outraged. They're doing the whole, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And Rory's just like, listen, man, I didn't do it. And then he even stopped defending himself. He's like, I mean, truth be told, you were the actual victim in this.
Yeah. And I was for real. Like, I mean, if I was
like legit.
Legit. I could have been like, hey, I just got violated. And, like.
For reality TV.
Fast forward to this time. But I would never do that. And put somebody else in my body, and they would have just sucked that up for money or for whatever, because I really was like exposed for.
You could have sued. Yeah, you could have sued. Yeah. Like the pictures made the rounds. Your nudes went everywhere, whether you wanted them to or not. 100%, dude. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then it was like the cover of Janice Dickinson, like doing like a PR tour, which. She's got an entire company behind her just saying, what an asshole. It's like, wait a minute. You scripted that.
Dude, after the fights, she's drinking with Pat at a table and a few of the fighters, and I go up to her. I said, "So you know that they dropped that, right?" She, "Oh, honey, it's TV." She's like, "You're a thoroughbred, by the way." And I was like, "If you weren't so fucking made out of glue, I'd take you up there right now." But fuck it, it was just that was it. She's like, "You're a thoroughbred," and she admitted it that it was scripted, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Luckily, I was
You know what though?
cock,
That's nice for you to know, but she certainly didn't let the general public in on that. And let's also keep in mind, you got to fight the next day.
Yeah.
Against Keith Wisniewski.
He's a tough guy.
Dude, all right, Rory, I'm just going to tell you, like, behind your back, I'm sitting here going, no, I'm saying the madness stops here. Wisniewski takes on last minute notice, but Wisniewski's no friggin' joke. Like, you might look at his record.
I saw him fight Jason Black.
Dude, he fought Shoney Carter as a senior in high school. Like,
oh
as a
my God.
So, like, he's as legit. He's as legit as they come. And, like, I'm like, well, if all these other guys couldn't do it, Wisniewski has got to be the one. And you stopped him.
Inside trip. No mas. If I hadn't hit him with that last punch, man,
to the stomach,
I put everything.
That body.
Dude, I could not believe how close to the belt. I would never dishonor a sport. I would never dishonor a fight. This is everything to me. It's written in the universal everything of who I am. I would never throw something after the bell, because somebody said on the commentary that sounded a little late, but when you're a fighter and it's gone, it's gone. It's gone. It's like throwing a baseball. It's gone. And Keith said, and he was so smart. And I have to say to you, Keith, you put on a show at Bourbon Street, and my friend was fighting, and I dishonored you by trying to hold his hands and get some weight off of him. And you're too good of a man for that. He should have cut the weight all the way. He lost the fight anyway, but you are a martial artist that I have to apologize to. So let's apologize. Apologize nothing for the hit, dude. You were smart. You said you were on the stool. You couldn't remember your mom and your sister's name, and you're getting yelled at by Carlos Newton that you're a champion. You got to go back out there. And he's smart. He goes, "Fuck that." He's like, I can't remember my mom's name. I'm not going. That's what he told me. And I was like, good. I mean, I wish I had, some more of that, and Keith's a guy that Mike had told me he could trust with a suitcase full of $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
Locked up for 10 years, come out, and it would
every penny will be there. Every penny will be there. Yeah. Salt of the earth guy. The IFL with sponsorships, they only allowed 2 sponsors, and they took was it like 35% of what it is you made? Did you ever get sponsors when you were at the IFL?
I got so much fucking free muscle milk and no, I never got any money. Like, we brought muscle milk to the fucking masses, definitely helped it grow. Because one of their creators, Joe Namey, became my nutritionist, and literally no though, and it's just, man, when people and money get involved in the sport, I want to say to all the people that are watching this and looking for what did Rory do to be better, to this, to that, understand I spent hours in my garage since I was 7.
Psychotically hitting a bag. Yeah.
Filled with some cement. I'd put a little cement in the bag, because if you could hit the heaviest heavy bag, I'd say one thing. Here's a tip: make the heavy bag your best friend and make it as heavy as you can.
Yeah.
That's it. And if you're watching this and thinking that there's some huge pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, there are lawsuits that are going on right now, and unless they're won, there's no road or ending for a fighter. So you have to either be genius level IQ to know when to stop and have something that you've been working on alongside of it to do so, or you will be left punchy, alone, and the loneliness will come, because brain damage goes like this: you get mean first, and you're out usually drinking, and that's the white stuff. That's why this Aaron Hernandez guy, they cut his brain. They did an autopsy, and it was his rage that got him, so it takes years to overcome that rage. And my honorable friend Mike and my actor friend Josh over there is going to take this compliment. I'm going to say there was a couple years after I had stopped fighting. We will flash forward right now. Flash.
Yeah.
And I literally had, I believe in God, and I can't believe wholeheartedly that suicide is damnation, but if it is, I'll go down there and find him. But my friend that I speak of. But I can tell you this, I was trying to kill myself with alcohol. And in doing so, I'd fight my brother, who figured out if you call and it's two brothers fighting in the house, you get a domestic battery. So I'd go away for 35 days. And then it shows up in the media for a little while. And then it looks like I'm hitting chicks all the time. So try getting a number when you get sober, when a girl just Googles you at the end of the bar and goes, nope, because looks like I've been beating women for, I don't know, I did like 13 times with my brother. I had one bad year.
You had 2013 was just a bad year for you, and dude, it's fucked up. It is what it is. Are you going to hold everything about somebody in regards to the totality of their character for just a real bad period in their life?
When they're depressed with themselves, I didn't know where I was going. The biggest thing, these SEALs, because we get along so well. My special forces friend, Dan Gill, who's the head of security for SpaceX. And he literally, he gets calls so frequently about his friends committing suicide. It's something about the transition back to reality. It's the same thing with fighting. It's the same kind of intention. Some of us, and it better be all of us, walk in there ready to die or ready to kill. But hopefully that's not the outcome ever. But
Are you sober now?
Yeah, 8
Good
years.
for you. Oh, dude, good for you, man. Dude, it's so important, man. Rory, I remember when you got locked up, and I was working there at the time, and I'm like, fuck, dude, I didn't want to run into you. And it was just not because I just, when somebody's like there, it's the worst place that they could ever be in their life, and have somebody that and recognize show up and go, hey, man, how are you doing? It's like, it's salt in a wound, man. Like, you don't need that shit, dude. You don't need it.
But you brought me pizza, man. The only guy I ever knew. You had to sneak it. I didn't know that if a guard knew somebody on their shift, that you would get moved. Right? It was Ray Callahan worked there.
Yeah,
if you knew somebody.
I was in a special unit, and I was able to kind of move around. I tried. Yeah, I tried. Guy like there's other people too.
I'm sorry. He's like, you're gonna make it back from this, and there's a cyclical thing going on here. It's me getting back up. That's the story of my life. That's the story that everyone needs to hear. People don't know. I beat Pat Healy in round 3, but I got dropped in round 1 the first seconds.
But Pat Healy fight, you clearly lost the first 2 rounds. And
holy shit, yeah.
In between the first and second round, you get up from the ground and you've got your hand raised like, oh yeah, it's coming. Like you felt something and saw something that nobody else did at the time. And you just waited. You just waited. Pat Healy, another savage. Look at his record. You're going to sit here and go, oh, well, it's a 500 record. Look at his opponents.
Titles. Yeah, he's a savage.
Look at his opponents. Yeah, he's somebody that refused to not take a hard fight, and it's a who's who on his record. A guy like Pat Healy, Jeremy Horn, Steve Berger, Aaron Riley, those are my MMA heroes just based on them refusing to pad their record. They wouldn't do it.
That's right. Wow, Aaron Riley, yeah. So what needs to be thought about and said is that regardless of, first of all, I believe in my heart of hearts, because I can't watch much of the sport. I need to know through your eyes. Do you see the sport regressing?
It's like point fighting now. And I can look at it like we had Dan Lambert on, and Dan Lambert pretty much summed it up perfectly. He said, how many jiu-jitsu instructors do you think I have? And we're like, oh, 5, 6. He's like, no, I got one. How many Taekwondo instructors do you think I have? We're like, maybe some kids classes or something. His response, no, I don't have the general public. He's like, I've got 3 Taekwondo instructors. The looks you get and angles you get from Taekwondo are useful in MMA. Other than a rear naked choke in a guillotine, how many submissions do you see in the UFC? He's like, it's not real. You need to know it, but how applicable is it? And it's just, it's kind of point fighting now, truth be told. Guys like you, they don't come around the sport anymore. Mike Perry, yourself, very few and far between. And they get outpointed. You know what I mean? They get outpointed.
I fought Pat, what's his name, from England. I had a 32-pound weight cut. And out of my own Bushido, I didn't say anything afterwards. I let him just have his victory.
Yeah, Dan Hardy.
I had collapsed the lung. I had a 14% tear in my left ventricle, and it created a pulmonary edema. Yeah, so I cut 32.2 pounds in 3.5 days. I remember
too much. Wow.
I thought I gained a day. I didn't know I lost a day. Pat did not come to the fight until the day of. He was having diarrhea so bad or whatever. And Ben Rothwell was fighting. And I literally cut the weight. I made the weight, but I started seizing. Like, not seizing, but I was seizing. Like, my muscles would tense up so bad, trying to rehydrate. Never had happened to me before. And upon that happening, I remember when I was going to maybe die. And in there's these black cabs in London. And this one had its locks broken. They kept going, chugga, 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 chugga. And you could lay down because they're cross seating. And I was laying, and Pat had me in between his knees, and he was just pouring just a little bit of our rehydration drink into me at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And I had taken my then girlfriend's brother, who was around me a lot. He had bought a ticket out there, and he was with me, but he stopped looking at me. And he was just remember his look out the window, because it was that touch and go. And I remember that, and I don't remember being afraid. I just remember one breath at a time. So I never saw Pat lose his. I've still never seen Pat lose his shit until this. This guy, our cabbie, was from England, but he had the cockroach slime with honeybees and honey. He was talking on the phone, and we were stuck. There's so much traffic in London. I'll never go back. So literally, Pat jumps and forearm shivers the back of this cab. He goes, just jump the fucking sidewalk and get us to the fucking front of our hotel, because we had an ambulance waiting for us there. So in front of the entire entourage of competitors, athletes, Dan Hardy with his mohawk. Dan, I made you. The bottom line is, they got to see. The paramedics said we never saw 2 bags of saline go into a person so fast. And
Jesus, dude. Well, here, what about like allowing your weight to get that high?
Was my discipline in between. I had a new girl, they were Italian, and I'd still run every day and everything, but it was always kept around 200, where it should have been around 184 or 5. I liked my boxing weight was 182, so that's where I was 182 for Warfield.
Didn't you almost walk into traffic as well, like in London?
I don't know.
Wasn't there an incident where they were worried because you almost got hit by a car? I think it was part of this whole thing, in regards to the
not drunk, because I didn't have any time to drink. It was all hospitals. Maybe I could tell you this much though. I had to stay 14 more days because they can't put you on a plane for if you get pneumonia, they can't land the plane in the Atlantic. So what had happened was I had torn my lung and it was collapsing in the dressing room. I never saw a pre-fight doctor because a kindergarten teacher could know if your chest sounds wrong. You know, I never got a stethoscope put to my chest. So I said, okay. And this is the first time I've ever did this. I was gathering air in the skin in between my neck and my esophagus. And my neck had went up to 19 inches. I'm about, if I was a tough guy, I'd say I'm 18, but I'm 17 and a half. And I literally didn't tell anybody, didn't tell Pat, and I got out there and said, I'm going to knock him out fucking one punch, and I'm going to see the doctor right away. And I've never undressed faster for a fight than for Hardy. And Hardy comes out to his English, everybody loves, does his stop, and I could see Bruce Buffer gives him the tension and all this. I could have gotten a water balloon thrown at me, and it would have been fucking over. I wasn't getting oxygen to my brain. So he connects with a hook that a temple hook is something that is not a huge punch for a puncher fighter. You want to knock somebody out with a hook, you catch them on the jaw. You make that jaw, you hit the mandible, you're good, but temple shot is, and it was not even a Mexican hook. It was just, so I know that wasn't the punch to take. It didn't take any time anyway, but I got dropped, of course, because I could barely stand getting up there. And I said I waved the doctor over right away, and I said, put a stethoscope on my chest. And they literally rushed me out of the arena, and I could hear them whispering. They're like, how did he collapse his lung in this fight? And yet, I remember the night before looking at the clock every minute. I was up all night and remembering just go breathe. And I said it was really wrong. And then afterwards, a couple of years later, I found out people can fucking get out of fights for the flu. But I fought with a collapsed lung.
Right? What was the cause of it?
I cut so much weight.
So it was from the weight? It was actually the weight that did it.
Somehow the straining, that as my muscles, convulsed, it tore. It must have torn my left ventricle.
With Nate Diaz, you also had some weight issues, but like in between, like if you look at the time between Diaz, your UFC debut against Brody Faber, and obviously your London fight, there was a lot of time and space in between. Did you fall out of favor with the UFC, like Joe Silva? Were there issues there with you guys?
I'll tell you what they said to me after my speech I had given, practically on no mind, but I'm articulate, so
100%.
I said, this is, a stage where my idols become my peers, and I thank you for this opportunity. Let's Saturday night show, blah, blah. That was the Dan Hardy thing. Who's his name? Josh, who's below Joe. Now he's the something.
Mick Maynard, Sean Shelby.
Sean Shelby. Sean's a good friend. Sorry, Sean, but I haven't watched him a while. So Sean pulls me over to Joe and goes, looks like we got a new voice for UFC. Joe goes, we'll see you after tomorrow night. I said, fuck, man, you picked the wrong day. But that's what he said. I was in great favor. Look at this. Look at the facts. Everyone who fought me. No, I'm not arguing. I'm saying, look at the facts. Dan wouldn't have made it to Hart, wouldn't have made it to St. Pierre so quickly without a victory over me. My choice was between Mike Swick in Chicago and Dan Hardy in England. I'm Irish, so
yeah,
can't
gotta go to London. Yeah.
I was just like, got to see the world, all that stuff. But it was Martin Catman, Mike Swick, or Dan Hardy. I said, I'll take the guy I barely know about, Dan Hardy. But Mike Swick, I was told I was 2 fights away from St. Pierre. Had I won Hardy, you'd sweep. Yeah.
What about Nate Diaz with the you got fined $1,000 for missing weight? How was your pre-fight experience with him as well as your post-fight?
I will tell you the bottom line is this. You could tell after I won the biggest, most glorious fucking head kick showing you could ever have for, it
walk away head kick with Brody Farber. Yeah.
After that, I had succumbed to complacency. And with Nate, before the fight, he's staring me down. He's looking at me. He's not shaking my hand and all that. And, dude, they are war tacticians, because they were calling my room and saying our manager says we're not going to take the fight unless you're 185 tomorrow and all this shit. Luckily, Pat White, my best friend, catches Joe Silva in the elevator and goes, Rory's not eating yet. He's like, we're mad about this missing weight, and like, hey guys, remember I fucking busted up a lung for you last time? Kept that so private. Brian Gumble had to track me down by calling Jeff Kern to get an interview with me about it. So the bottom line is, Joe goes, are you kidding me? That's what they're doing to him? They're telling him he can't eat? He goes, those fucking tell him to eat. There's fights on, papers are signed, fights fucking on. So that's how good they are. And I got to appreciate that.
Yeah.
And the thing, right after Nate beat me, he said, Mr. Markham, I'm sorry. I didn't shake your hand at weigh-ins. We got a hold of your boxing tapes. I was watching them all night, and I was afraid. And he shook my hand. And I'm so proud of what you've done with that confidence from that fight, because it must have been fucking scary. Heavier, known for this, known for that. And you stood up, you took it, you beat me. Congratulations with all the success that's come to you, man. Careful on the brain. Use your money. Get stem cells and shit.
Did he take the 1,000 or did he let you keep it?
Oh, he'll take whatever you don't know. They're gangsters, bro. We're too. And then Nick came in the dressing room and bowed to Pat. They both bowed to Pat, and he just brushed me on the head. He said, "You'll be okay, buddy," and just walked out. They are martial artists. That is all fake. It's so fake. All that shit that's for the cameras. That's who they are, but it's also they're not going to not be who they are, but it's not like a dressing thing. You know what I mean? It's not something that's not coming from a place where if you're caught on the side of the road with a flat tire, you want them helping you.
100%. 100%. Rory Markham, we hit the 2.5 hour mark. I knew this would be a good one.
Yeah.
Plan on seeing me beginning of the week. I'm going to have a little package for you, buddy.
All right, brother.
Parting words. Rory Markham, let's close this one out, dude.
Parting words are, if you like the first chapter, you're going to love the second. And if you have the knowledge, you will succeed. Follow me. Listen to this podcast. There's genius behind it.
Rory.
I'm Rory Markham. Peace out.
Excellent, brother. Love you, man. I'll see you this week, buddy. Take care, Rory.
You too, man.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.